We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm and even accepted and promoted by the government.
Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a really busy day today and I was not planning on coming to the bunker to do a video to put out. Instead, I'm putting one out tomorrow that's something other than a news video. But I felt that this is very important to share with you all. This is a speech with the president of El Salvador. And the reason why I think it's important that we see this is because we here in the United States, not all of us, but many people, I feel, live in a bubble within the United States. Meaning what? Meaning that they cannot see what others that live outside of the U.S. see when they're looking in. That a lot of people here within the United States, they go by what they hear on social media or more than likely on the mainstream media, what their politicians tell them, what their local politicians tell them, but they never get to see in or look down from the 35,000 foot view, as some may say. His name is, let me see if I can pronounce it correctly, is Nayib Bukele. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but I could probably be wrong. He has a little bit of an accent, so I'm going to go ahead and leave in the captions so that hopefully it can translate correctly into English. Now, the captions on this translate about 90% correctly, but for about the 10% that don't translate well, I'll stop and let you know what he's saying. And you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, how beloved this president is by his people. There's some of his people out in the audience, but this CPAC, I believe, takes place here in the United States. So let's go ahead and get started.
You're a true leader.
Thank you, thank you. Gracias, muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
And do you notice, ladies and gentlemen, how he's not like 80 years old? In my opinion, this gentleman was elected into power and not selected per se.
Thank you. That's all I see. Thank you.
He just asked, are you from Brazil? And they say, yeah. And that guy there said, we love you, Papa.
Dear Matt and Mercy, thank you for the kind invitation to have me here at CPAC. It is truly an honor to be here just a few days after our presidential and legislative elections, which, by the way, they pulverized the opposition. They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already dead.
And I know that translated it really bad, but he said that they say that globalism comes to die at CPAC, but in El Salvador, it's already dead. That's because for the last 60 or 70 years or so in El Salvador, globalism had his claws in it. And El Salvador was like the murder capital of the world. And only after this gentleman got elected and started imposing his policies onto the public did it become the safest nation in the western side of the hemisphere.
But if you want globalism to die here too, you must be willing to unapologetically fight against everything and everyone that stands for it. Fight for your freedoms, fight for your rights. The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him. These dark forces are already taking over your country. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening. You don't see it as clearly because people are designed to see linear changes, not exponential ones. we don't always recognize how fast a problem can multiply and spiral out of control. The problem is much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. Once the water boils, it's already too late.
When he said that we kind of like need a president that can fight these dark forces, and we all know that there are forces behind the scenes that like to pull the strings with their power and their money, right? But what I think is the most important thing that a president has in order for a country to be free and stay free, it's not his cabinet members, it's not the people behind the scenes pulling the strings, but it is we, the people, together as a collective, that we want freedom. And in order for us to want freedom, we have to know that right now in the United States of America, like this gentleman is saying, we don't have freedom. And why is that? It is because the same clause of globalism that had El Salvador in its straps for the last several decades has put its claws into ours. So it is we that have to be behind the president, and we have to let go of who is president, but what policies is that president administering for us, we the people, to be free, and how much can we support him?
People fail to see these things. It's our nature. Just like the frog, people become complacent, and they don't realize how bad things are getting until it's too late. Well, I know, of course, El Salvador is a lot smaller country. Setting aside the differences, there's a similarity with what is happening here in the United States. We also had many apparently isolated problems in the 60s and the 70s, and we failed to realize as a country the severity of them until it became a civil war. By the time we reacted, it was already too late. We were already boiled like the frog. And it took us 50 years, 2 wars, 250,000 lives, and a third of our population displaced, and a near miracle to get our country back.
I'm not a financial advisor, but the folks at Genesis Gold Group specialize in helping those who want to diversify their excess wealth by converting their fiat currency retirement plans into a plan that is backed by real money. So if you're in a position where you are wondering what you can do in order to diversify or insulate your wealth against what I like to call the inferno of inflation, give Genesis Gold Group a call, and they can provide you with the information that you need in order to make an educated decision.
As your friend, I want to issue this warning so you don't make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s. It is not easy to pull yourself back once you're in boiling water. In fact, all the experts said it was impossible. And besides, you don't want to wait 50 years and maybe hope for a miracle to get out of hell. You can still jump before the water boils. Some might say I'm exaggerating, but we can clearly see the signs of a declining society because our own hit rock bottom decades ago. After 1 million people fled the first war, a lot of them came to live in ghettos here in the United States, where the gangs were formed. When former President Clinton deported a lot of those gang members without telling us they were gang members, they were criminals. They roamed free and recruited young people, thousands of young Salvadorans, to join the gangs. At first, they seemed like petty criminals, but they began to change and transform until they became the unscrupulous terrorists that we know today. Most of them even perform satanic rituals, and this has been well documented.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think is happening here in the United States today when it comes to gangs and unlawfulness? Take a look at all of these big cities that, well, let's take a look for New York City, for example, where you had gang members that came through our borders and went to New York City. They beat up some police officers, and then they were just let right back out into the streets. This is a government that does not care for its people. If it was a government that actually cared for its constituents, the people that put it in power, then it would have taken the law into hand and slammed it against those people that betrayed us by coming in here and then doing that to our law enforcement. This is a government, ladies and gentlemen, that is over the edge. You can see it. How can you not see it? It's not that they're nice. It's that they want to create a system that gives them 100% total control against we the people. And it is the beginnings of what happened in El Salvador 60, 70 years ago. And as he says, if we don't stop it now, if we don't learn now and let it go too far, we will find ourselves trying to fight out of hell. Because that's what it'll be like as far as gangs running the country, like they are now in some places in the US, believe it or not.
The government back then didn't deal with the disease, nor did the next administration, nor did the ones after that. The disease that had begun with mild symptoms got worse and worse. It became a cancer that seemed incurable. We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm and even accepted and promoted by the government. How many young people have you lost to the streets of Philadelphia or San Francisco, to fentanyl? Can you imagine how it will be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years?
No matter what side of the aisle you may sit on right now, is what this gentleman is saying true or not true? Does it benefit his country for him to be saying what he is saying now? Is he getting paid to be saying what he is saying now by someone that has an agenda? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that this person is a free-thinking individual and that this administration that we have in the U.S. right now wants nothing more than to not have someone from a third world country that has gone through for decades what we are about to engage in ourselves coming over here and telling us, hey, it's not too late if we change just a few things.
The same thing was happening in El Salvador. In the span of less than a decade, gangs took control of all the country and our society. They evolved into a parallel government, controlling elections and even political parties. Every aspect of the daily life of most people was controlled by the gangs. Murder capital of the world is a tragic title to hold. Getting rid of that was the bare minimum we had to achieve in order to even start thinking about rebuilding our country. But jumping out of the water when it's already boiling is an almost impossible feat. You are not there yet. And believe me, you don't want to be. We did the unthinkable to cleanse our society. We arrested the terrorists, but we have to remove corrupt judges and corrupt attorneys and prosecutors.
Starting to agree now that what he's saying is true? Tell me if we don't have corrupt judges, corrupt district attorneys, corrupt AGs. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going down the same road that so many other have already traveled. And in this case, we are being given a warning as a nation. We need to wake up and understand that it is we, the people, not we the peoples, meaning plural types of people. It is we the people, we Americans. Think of yourselves of all of these crony politicians that are always separating us by race, by ethnicity, by sex. And then think of the ones that never separate us but just say that we are Americans. Because one set understands that we are the people, and the other one uses our differences against us to keep us separated. Because when we the people stand separated, then they, the crony politicians, they have all the power, ladies and gentlemen.
These corrupt judges and prosecutors were setting the gang members free. And it wasn't just the gangs. The corrupt system worked in tandem with the so-called international community, the NGOs, and of course the fake news, just like it happens here in the United States. Unelected bureaucrats are trying to instate public policy. Who elected them? They don't have a democratic mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office.
Can you not see what's happening here is what this gentleman is talking about? They have been through it. We need to learn from this because they have been through what we are going to engage into and already have started, in my opinion. But we still have time to get out of this before we're in hell, like he says.
Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador. Thank God, another glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence. No one believes his lies anymore over there.
For those of you that don't know, George Soros is a globalist that has his claws in a lot of what happens in many different countries that allow him to be an influencer nation. For example, one of the big things that he's done here in our nation is that he's highly funded a lot of district attorneys that will not enforce the law of the land to get office. So when you look at these cities that are big cities that have a lot of crime, where you hear that people don't have to pay bail even though they commit crimes, even as far as, you know, taking someone's life and stuff like that, it's because the district attorneys there were funded by George Soros. In my opinion, okay, you can look this up, were funded by him, and they know that part of their duty, all right, in order to bow down to the globalists, is to make sure that they allow the cities that they are over, as far as being district attorneys, to be pretty much lawless and to pretty much adhere the law to the law-abiding citizen as harshly as they can, but then let all of these other criminals off with just a slap in the hand. Just take a look at it for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. He can see it, and he doesn't even live here. And why can't we see it? Why? Well, because of the media. Because of the politicians that get on the media, that get on TV and tell us otherwise.
We just had free and fair elections. And we won in a landslide with more than 84% of the vote. Let that sink in. More than 84% of the people voted to continue our policies. Our victory is unprecedented in the history and modern democracies in the world. They also gave us a supermajority in Congress, more than that, 54 seats out of 60. "57 if we count our allies. That's 95% of Congress. Let that also sink in. The people of El Salvador have woken up, and so can you. The global elites, they hate our success, and they fear yours.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is about half of his speech. I'm going to go ahead and leave his entire speech linked on a pinned comment. It's on the Forbes YouTube page. I don't think it's fair that I go ahead and let you all listen to the entire speech on my channel, because I did not get this. Forbes did from CPAC. I don't know how they get it or whatever, but anyways, I just want to be fair to them. But I think that we got enough from what we listened to understand that what we're going through, other countries have gone through before. And they're telling us in plain sight, so that we can hear it freely, that what we're doing is going down a road which will lead to hell, the same hell that they have just escaped after 50, 60 years of being there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a time, we have a chance to change the things that have wronged our countries, as long as we wake up. As long as we wake up to the fact that there are some people out there, like the gentleman he mentioned. I don't know how many times I can mention his name here without getting this channel in trouble, I guess, let's say. So I won't mention it again. But there are people, globalists, that do not love their country, that are lying to people, that are manipulating the law, that are using lawfare, which is a new word that we've learned. Lawfare, when the government uses the law against us by putting crony judges and appointing crony DAs and attorneys, so that they can say, nope, we're going to let these real criminals free, but we're going to put these law-abiding citizens in jail. We still have a chance to change this. Those people that are advocating for all of these crazy rules and regulations that you see popping up. I saw a poster in a school, I won't say what school, in a school nearby, that had a United Nations club so that the children can become good global citizens. Is that what you want? To be governed from a non-elected organization? I don't think that's what anyone wants, ladies and gentlemen. Human beings want to be free, first and foremost, so that we can make our own choices for our own selves and for our own children. We don't want to be governed by someone that's half a world away, who cares not about you or anyone that you love, especially this country. I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I have a very busy day today. I'm pretty excited to work on the video that I'm going to put out for tomorrow. And I'm also pretty excited that it's not going to be a news video unless it's something crazy happens between now and then. Other than that, I hope that you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper, and I am out.